This podcast is brought to you by Summit 96.1 as part of the New Zealand Broadcasting School.
Sometimes when driving through the city, you miss the treasures hidden within the walls, especially if it's somewhere that you drive by every day. So I'm going to introduce you to something that may have just once gone unnoticed, the ArtBox. The ArtBox was created during a time that was craving transitional spaces in support of the arts community in Christchurch. And if you're still a little bit confused as to what exactly the ArtBox is, Tim Brown, the Operations Manager of Design and Arts at Ara Institute of Canterbury, sheds a little bit of light.
So the ArtBoxes are the three different gallery spaces that artists can use or rent out for different types of art activities. We're trying to honour the original intention of them, that they are a Christchurch community art resource.
We have to go back to the beginning though. Where did this idea originally stem from?
Pre-earthquake, there was a very active gallery scene in Christchurch. A number of galleries based in the central city, unfortunately, were pretty much destroyed in the earthquakes. So after the earthquakes, there was a huge gap really, and a lack of spaces for artists to be able to exhibit in.
And it's only right to discuss this with the creators themselves. And Martin Trustham, a key developer of this project, explains just how this idea has developed.
The notion of gallery and studio space for me had always been an important one. It seemed to make quite a good make good sense to pick up on some of the design ideas that had been sort of going around at the time, or for a while I suppose, but came apparent at that time around containers. So my brief originally to F3 Design, as they were at this stage, was to design some interconnected spaces that could be reformed if required and relocated, because I think that seemed to be a fairly important criterion. We didn't really know where things were going to go, how long they could stay in places, and etc, etc.
This project though, it was going to go nowhere without the help of a designer. So someone that Martin teamed up with was Andrew Just, who at the time was working with F3 Design, and he's the one that took this project from containers to what we see today.
So I'd met Martin Trustham working on a community call for ideas. I was asking Martin what he was up to, and he said, arranging these shipping containers, want these shipping containers as art gallery space. And he said, would you be able to, arrange them? And I said, could we have a little bit of room to manoeuvre, because I think it could maybe be a bit better than just arranging shipping containers. And so that was the start of it, basically. And he said, yep, you've got a few days. So myself and a couple of friends, after hours, we were working on that concept. It was based around kind of the core principles behind the shipping containers, so the kind of modularity, the mobility, and the kind of ready-madeness of them and so on. And we thought, we think we can probably do that a bit better, and you end up cutting holes in the containers when you buy them, so okay, let's just start with a frame.
Their suggestion was we should start with a frame, and then it would be more adaptable, it would be standardised on all sides. So essentially what they came up with was a cube, so that any panel could go into any side. They could be stacked. Walls could become voids for open spaces, or windows, or another door, or connect to another if you wanted to expand the size and scale of them. So that was kind of the thinking that we went through. Make them as versatile as possible, and the cube was the sort of obvious solution.
And the popularity that it receives and the feedback that it gets, it's something that not many other buildings can achieve.
It's quite an innovative space, so I think it reflects how architects and artists have responded to needing to look at having more flexible ways of showing work.
People loved the idea, loved the modularity, loved the apparent simplicity of it.
I think it's partly because it's got quite a lot of variety in something that is so kind of deceptively simple, but you can do a lot with it. And I think right from the early reactions to it as well, that's something that people got a sense of quite quickly.
Potentially the beauty of this project isn't around the physical art that we can view, but maybe it's the story that this project tells and the passion that drove it all.
While the initial concept, essentially, the brief came from me to a small company to design this, in the end it involved 220 odd people who were nearly all volunteers, and a large number of corporates who gave extraordinary amounts of time and money to make the thing come to life. It was kind of like, while I might have, if you like, laid the egg, it was everybody else it was the community that brought the thing to life. So between the entire collection of people involved, it was an enormous collaborative effort. And I think that's part of the value and appeal of projects like this. It's not necessarily the outcome, but it's the process you go through to bring it to life, and then the process you go through to keep it alive.
This podcast is brought to you by Summit 96.1 as part of the New Zealand Broadcasting School.